Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of The Burn with Mitch on 12 Ounce Sports Network. I am your host, Mitch Bernstein. Welcome to what I think is going to be an amazing, epic, potentially epic show with my three guests tonight. It is Tuesday, April the 5th. It's already April. Spring is sprung here down in Wilmington, North Carolina, and we are glad it is. Um, and happy to be here. Glad that you're here with me. Um, let's get to it. So tonight we will be talking baseball, as I've been tweeting out all day. My first guest will be talking about the New York Yankees and the American League East, and Aaron Judge and maybe Carlos Beltran and his big mouth. Julian Gularte will be with me. He will be talking. He's a Yankee fan and he's a sports writer, and we'll be talking to him about this Yankees team and their lineup, which seems quite potent. And we'll talk about both the strengths and weaknesses of this team and the AL East. 7:05 after Julian. I will say, controversial, opinionated former sports writer for NBC Sports, national sports writer for NBC Sports, and now has a newsletter that you can subscribe to. And I subscribe. It's the only one that I pay to subscribe to because it's great information in the morning. It kind of wakes me up. It's called The Cup of Coffee, and the author is none other than Craig Calcaterra. So Craig will be with me today, this evening after Julian. Craig has a new book out. It's actually officially out today. So I'm lucky to get him with me. The name of the book, it starts out with Rethinking Fandom. And what does that mean? So we'll talk to Craig about that and get his thoughts about what the book is about, why he wrote the book, and see if many of us buy into his perspectives and thoughts about what he wrote about. So he'll be joining me at 7:05. And at 7:30, I get to talk to a president. I've never spoken to a president before. I get to speak to the president of probably the only organization I would like to speak to, their president. That is the Baseball Hall of Fame. Baseball Hall of Fame President Josh Rawitsch will be with us at 7:30. We're going to talk a little bit about Josh's career and his transition, his journey from where he was working in baseball up to the president of the Baseball Hall of Fame. We'll talk about the Hall of Fame and what they did during the pandemic. Obviously shut down, no in-person induction ceremony. So we'll talk about what they did and what you may have seen and been interested in watching it or listening to with one of their staff members who did a phenomenal job during the pandemic of keeping us engaged in baseball. And we'll talk specifically about the induction ceremony coming up in July, in person. We're also going to talk to show Josh a little bit of history. You can see this picture. That is don't pay any attention to the guy in the green hat. Look to the other side. The guy sitting down. That is Craig Biggio. This is the day that Craig Biggio arrived in Houston to play for the Houston Astros. The other guy doesn't make any difference. You don't need to see him. And here's Greg. I called the Astros. I asked him if we could get someone to talk to our sports campers in the city of Bel Air, which sits just inside the southwest part of Houston. And who shows up from Smithtown, New York, but Seton Hall catcher Craig Biggio, and now Hall of Famer. So I'm going to talk to Josh a little bit about that and a couple of other things about the Hall of Fame. But what is Sports Week? Kudos to Kansas winning the national championship basketball. Great tournament, a lot of fun, a lot of great games. As you know, if you watch, tons of upsets. It was really kind of fun to watch. St. Peter's, the Cinderella team this year. It's just fun to watch. It's just you get the atmosphere. If you've ever been there, and I have been there to a to the first and second round games, we went to San Diego and watched the first two rounds a few years ago, and it was awesome. I mean, you really get the feel with the bands there, with those fans, the fans of the schools. It's just so much fun. And again, as you've been watching it on TV as I have for years, it's just great basketball, great college basketball. So congratulations to them. Tough loss for North Carolina. They played well. Yeah, man, 15-point lead, 16-point lead, and they blew it. I'm sure the coach is not happy with his performance. Imagine being him and having that stick in your craw for a while. But great job to them. NFL free agency continues. NBA playoffs are coming up. And two people who we lost this past week. One most recently, Tommy Davis, who played for the Dodgers, mostly. Great fielder, a really good player. We lost him, I think, yesterday. And then what really hurt a lot of us was the passing of All-American Girls Professional Baseball League player Shirley Brookovich. Shirley was on the show a couple years ago with Maybelle Blair. Maybelle and Shirley traveled together. They were travel companions, representing women in baseball, and the International Women's Baseball Committee is has developed a plan to develop a center in Rockford, Illinois, home of the Rockford Peaches. Shirley has been instrumental in that, and when I saw that, I was very sad. A nice lady, spoke very well. I understand she had a great sense of humor, and she will be missed but remembered for her contributions to baseball, to women in baseball, and the future of women in baseball. So, sad notes for baseball. But on the bright side of baseball, we have baseball. Thursday, we have baseball. Now, my Phillies aren't playing till Friday, but Thursday, I have the MLB package. I've never had to get it before because in my previous cable package, I got MLB Network. And of course, I was in the Philadelphia area and got to watch my Phillies play as much as I wanted. Of course, I'll get the ESPN games and I'll get the Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday night, whenever night baseball, which is going to be great. But I got MLB package. I'm very excited, and we got baseball starting on Thursday. I will not be talking Phillies tonight. That's next week. We'll start with a little bit of Phillies next week. I'm happy where they are, but I'm wondering if our first guest is ecstatic about this lineup I'm looking at right now that actually was the lineup that played today. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Julian Gularte to the program. Julian, how are you?
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I'm getting excited for opening day. Is everything good sound wise? Can you hear me? I can hear you.
Beautiful.
Okay, wanted to make sure,
Beautiful.
but yeah, I'm getting excited. I like how it looks so far. It's going to be interesting to see the big decisions like DJ or Gleyber Torres potentially, or you're going to play the big outfield and DH Aaron Hicks maybe.
Well, yeah, I'm looking at the lineup as it was today. Okay, and we'll talk. But what did you did you hear what Carlos Beltran said about Aaron Judge?
Yeah.
We'll get to
Um.
that in a minute, but
Yeah.
because that's been a secret, right? We don't know. Nobody hasn't signed, and who knows what's going to happen now. But he had Josh Donaldson leading off, then Aaron Judge, then Rizzo, then Stanton, then DJ, Joey Gallo, Aaron Hicks, Glaber, Kyle. Is it Higashioka? Is that how it's pronounced?
Higashioka.
Higashioka. Thank you.
We call him the home run stroker because that's John Sterling's call, and he's been killing it
Oh,
this
yeah.
spring.
That's great. That's great. Julia, that's a hell of a lineup.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for it. I know a lot of people thought it was a little underwhelming because we didn't get that big stub first baseman or none of the star shortstops, but I think it's coming into play pretty well. It's got some good balance. I know strikeouts are going to be something people look at. I think it's going to be a little better than normal. Isaiah kind of flip is going to help that.
Yeah.
Josh Donaldson's not a huge strikeout guy. I know he'll go down sometimes, but he's not like 200 a year, so he'll give us some nice edge. I really like it, especially if everyone stays healthy. And Aaron Hicks has, I think, become underrated almost at this point because he hasn't played in so long. But availability is your best trait, and he hasn't been available. So if he's
Mhm.
out there, I think they'll be good.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, you look at, I mean, again, we everybody starts 0-0 Thursday. Um, but the Yankees, I'm going to talk about Aaron Boone in a minute too. I want to take your thoughts on him. Um, you know, I mean, I don't see a big weakness in this lineup at all. I
No,
mean,
there's no weakness at this
right?
moment. I mean, the only thing you could point at is the catcher, but he's even been good this spring like that. But a lot of teams have light hitting catchers now, and I think the Yankees needed to get some better defense after all the Sanchez debacles. I think we're going to be looking good with that. I think the pitching staff's going to like it better. They're going to call the games better. You'll see better framing too. The only thing is Sanchez had a better arm, but Higgy was looking good back there today. I know we just picked up Trevino, who's a very good defender
Oh,
as
is that
well.
right? Okay.
So we traded Albert Abreu. They've been doing a lot of mixing and matching with that bullpen, and the Yankees are going to prioritize defense with their catching this year.
Yeah, I mean, and that's fine. I again, not a huge deal, um, but they should score runs, right? They should be
Yeah,
scoring some runs, kind of like my Phillies with their lineup right now.
I
I
like that
mean,
lineup a
just
lot too.
oh my gosh! I mean, it's just going to be fun. I mean, I tweeted out once the Phillies ended up getting when they got Schwarber and then they got Castellanos. I tweeted out that this lineup, as yours, as the Yankees, could go back to back to back to back to back.
Yeah, it's going to be a really fun thing. I would say. I really think it's going to be awesome. So the Phillies, I really like that lineup, and I'll talk about them a little bit too. I think
Okay.
that the Phillies are going to end up being a playoff team. I'll give you some hype with that. I think they're going to be battling for that second or third spot. I still think Atlanta's the class of the NL East,
Mhm.
especially with these Met setbacks. The Phillies lineup with Castellanos and Schwarber has such good punch in it now. They needed some other bats to help out Harper and Real Muto and then Reese Hoskins too. So I think they're going to be, yeah, like you said, they got four guys that can take you deep real quick.
It would be
Even
that would
five if
be
Reese Hoskins gets himself together.
I know exactly, and and we'll see what happens to Harper because typically he started slow, but he's banging the ball right now, which is great. Let me go back to the Yankees. Um, let's talk about the. Oh, bless you.
Well,
Let's
thank you.
talk about the starting pitching. Is that a weakness? Let us know. Let me know. What do you think?
Well, it's actually pretty interesting because I saw Fangraphs has the Yankees projected to have the most like wins out of their starters. I think if they look are like out of like the whole projection, like the 1 through 10, I think the Yankees' depth is tremendous. I think the one question you could ask is for Garrett Cole being that second the starter behind him is the big thing you're going to look for. Is Luis Severino going to be what we used to see? How many innings we're going to get? Is he fully healthy? Jordan Montgomery, I think, could take the next step this year, and he was close to a two status, I thought, last year. The wins and losses didn't reflect it, though, because they didn't hit for him. So I think if the offense turns it around, he doesn't have to be as precise. His run support was terrible. There was a stretch last year, like 10 straight games. It was like 2 runs or less, like 1 run or less. We kept getting shut out whenever he was pitching. He was that guy last year
Yeah.
that just had no luck when he took the mound.
Could you imagine? I mean, a major league pitcher, and you're pitching your butt off, right? And these guys over and over and over
Like
again.
the
It's like,
DeGrom syndrome. No one had it worse than him.
yes, it was amazing. It's amazing. Um, so the pitching. So who's beyond? Who are the starters? In the starting lineup?
I named you those three. You
Okay,
got Jamison Tyone going to be settling as a
okay,
four, and I think
right.
he could take a step too because this is his second year off the Tommy John now. So I want to see a
Mhm.
little bit more from him. You started to see it towards the second half of last year. He got off to a bad start. I think Severino might struggle in the beginning too. Nestor Cortez is the swingman, the jack of all trades. He's going to be in that 5 spot. He can go out of the bullpen too. Clark Schmidt's going to get the nod. I knew he was going to get called up yesterday. They announced it today. He's going to be the sixth starter, the de facto sixth starter right now. They
Mhm.
also called up J.P. Sears and Ron Marancio, can be starters and swingmen also. Michael King can provide some innings in that swing role, though he's not going to start games, I don't think. Domingo Germán's also banged up for 2 months. He would have been an
Okay.
option, so he's not going to be on the table for a while. And if you go third into AAA, you have Luis Hill, and then you have Davy Garcia. So the Yankees' depth is really good.
Well, and that's good because, like everybody else this year, beginning Thursday, pitchers aren't quite ready. You're going to need to have depth, um, and that's going to be key. And some people say, well, beginning of the season, but every game counts. Every game from 1 to 162 is going to count. So it's going to be a matter of, I believe, hitters potentially being ahead of pitchers at the start of the season. I
Yeah.
know the Phillies were saying that Wheeler hasn't pitched, and he's going to pitch over the weekend to live batters. I don't know that that's a huge deal, but again, for the Phillies, I don't think they have the depth at this stage of the game. You're going to
With the
the
starting pitching, no, I would agree. They really don't. I really like Ranger Suarez, though. That seems like a nice guy that's under the radar. I picked him up in one of my fantasy drafts. I think if you could see more innings out of him this year, that'd be nice. He could be a good third starter, I think, behind the big two. Get
Mhm.
a bounce back from Aaron Nola. That'd be
Yeah.
huge, obviously. I
Yep.
think he's shown he can do it. So, but the behind them, I don't know. It doesn't look too great, I wouldn't think.
Yeah. Well, I was encouraged yesterday seeing Nola strike out 9, and his first 3 starts were just horrendous. And again, you don't know. Is he still getting it straight? Was he still getting ready? Was he still getting into game mode? Right. But yesterday, I saw the stats. I mean, I don't think he walked anybody, and he had 9 Ks, and his curveball was working. Is what I was reading. So
Yeah.
that's all I need to hear. He just needs to work the plate. He needs to do something different than last year, which was give up dingers and not be consistent in throwing strikes. So that's hopefully going to happen for him this year, and we'll see. You got Knebel, you got Familia, who today I saw that he struck out the side. It looked like. So I'm more encouraged about the bullpen this year than we have in the past several years with the Phillies. Talk about the Yankees bullpen.
Yeah, so I will say something quickly before I go to their bullpen, which I love the Yankees bullpen. I really do. I gave you three guys in it to start a little bit, but the thing about the starting pitchers is a great point, and that's what prompted the Yankees to go with 16 pitchers. It also feeds into the bullpen because you're gonna have pitchers on pitch count to 70 or 80, most of them, because they didn't have the proper time to get themselves up to 100. Like this extra gap time would have been that extra start or two to get them to that full force. They didn't have that. The only person who was ready to fully go is now injured in Max Scherzer. Maybe he rushed himself too much. Maybe that's why he got hurt. He's also 37, so maybe that's why too. But so that's a big factor for the Yankees bullpen. I gave you three guys. You know what? Go over some mixing and matching they've been doing. So they traded Abreu, like I mentioned before. He's not in there. They got rid of Joely Rodriguez for Miguel Castro, and I'm going to tell you right now, I think Castro's going to be a stud for the Yankees. I know I only saw one. Obviously, he only pitched one outing, but he had 2 strikeouts. He looked sharp. He could throw 100 plus. His breaking stuff's really good. He had a changeup that was 93 miles an hour today. I'm not exactly sure why the Mets hands him over to us, but I'll take him. I know they wanted a lefty. He needs to work on control. Matt
Right.
Blake was able to have a similar project last year with Clay Holmes. I think if you could see him do something like that again, it'd be great for the Yankees. I'm really excited for Miguel Castro. Clay Holmes year 2. Wandy Peralta is going to go again in year 2 after the trade deadline. I was lucky enough to interview Lucas Licky. I absolutely love him out of the bullpen, and he's a great person as well. But he's a good story. Another lefty. He's going to be solid this year. You have Chad Green, who I think got overused last year, and I'm hoping with all this depth they've acquired, he doesn't have to be used as much. Jonathan Loaizaga is the best pitcher in the bullpen, I think. I picked him to be the AL reliever of the year, so we'll see if he can hold up that end of the bargain. I know it's high praise, and Aroldis Chapman's a big story. The biggest question mark you have is he going to get back to what he was?
Right.
If he does that, you're going to be good. I think it's going to be relied upon that third pitch if he can get that split finger going. His fastball's taking a step back. The slider's not what it quite once was, so he's got to get that third pitch. And then I would say Michael King is like a Swiss Army knife. I really like him too. He's been learning from Corey Kluber, so that's always a great person to learn from. You can see him do more. And then they traded for McKay from Tampa Bay.
Right.
They just did that. He's going to be in AAA. Kind of took a flyer on him. He's got a wicked curveball, so they'll see if maybe he comes up in the year. Then you got Manny Buñuelos, who was a resurgent guy who was injured for a while. They gave him a shot. He looked good in spring training, but he's going to start in AAA.
Okay, and he started today, I saw.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's so fun for you, and all of us as fans, isn't it? Every year just seems to be a little different. Nothing ever seems to be the same because whether you have new guys or you have a new manager or you've got this lockout issue that came up, it's going to be interesting to see how these managers play with these pitchers all across both leagues, right? It's going to be fun.
I agree 100%. I really do. So we'll see what ends up happening with that. But it's going to be interesting to see. We have so many variables here now. How's the Phillies roster looking? Did they decide how many pitchers they're going to carry? Because I don't like doing the 16 pitchers because it only leaves us with a 3-man bench.
Right. That's a minimum one. I don't remember what I read yesterday. It was either 15 or 16. I'm not sure. I have to go get deeper into that. But I want to talk about now the AL East. All right.
Okay.
So who's the competition? Looking at Toronto?
I think it's as tough as ever. And
yeah,
my friend, I've been having conversations with friends and like people working and all that. And I'm going to say that the Toronto Blue Jays, people are saying they could be the most hated now. You know how it was always the Red Sox, they were the most hated. Tampa Bay kind of took the mantle for a minute. Now I think it's going to be the Blue Jays. I think it's the Blue Jays' time to shine. I think they're going to be neck and neck. I think Tampa Bay, you saw them trade Austin Meadows yesterday. They lost Joey Wendell. Those were two notorious Yankee killers, so I'm not too upset to see them go. Yeah. Wanzer Franco is going to be a stud, though. You can't dismiss him. He's going to be a huge problem for the Yankees. They're starting pitching's in shambles, though. Shane Baz is injured. They took a flyer on Corey Kluber. Tyler Glasnow's probably missing the season with Tommy John. They're going to depend on McClanahan to be their ace, and Luis Patino is going to be a nice guy for them, too, I think. So I think the Rays are a third-place team. I think Boston's fourth because that pitching looks terrible. You saw Michael Walker get lit up today. He gave up three bombs to the Twins, like Correa, Gio, and Buxton. And then they have Rich Hill going still. Like, I don't even know how that's even feasible at this point. Like, I just can't believe it. He's actually not – he's not bad, but I just can't believe he's still going in the starting rotation. Like, I got to give him credit for keeping it going this long, keeping himself in shape, and taking his breaking stuff to be that sharp. But the top three starters right now are Eovaldi, Tanner Hoyt, and Nick Pivetta. Switch Pivetta and Hoyt, but you get my point here, and it's not the best situation. Chris Sale's on the 60s AIL.
I saw that yesterday.
He's been very injury prone. I don't think you could expect like what you used to from him even when he returns. It's always something with Chris Sale. Ever since he signed that contract, it's been a huge bust. I kind of saw that coming because I just didn't think his frame really holds up well. And I know they won the World Series with him and all that, but it's been a disaster since he signed that deal. Mm-hmm. And I don't really trust him at all, honestly, even when he returns. You haven't seen the greatest results from him. So that's where I'm at. I think the Blue Jays and Yankees are going to be very close this year. Tampa's still going to be very competitive. Boston's not going to be bad, don't get me wrong, but I don't see them winning like over 90 games, really.
Well, that pitching, like you said, is such a question mark right now. Nick Pivetta, no. I mean,
Pivetta. That's your guy.
I mean, yeah, and there was a reason why they gave him away. Because it wasn't, he was, we always think in the Phillies organization, they got a good young player, but, somehow it doesn't turn out. But, listen, good for him. He got somewhere. He's playing. He's pitching. But, who knows what'll happen? I don't know.
I mean, he looks good in glimpses. We've had trouble against him sometimes. He doesn't fully put it together. That's the problem. It's like up, down, like sometimes good, sometimes bad. Like,
exactly. I think it's in his head, and he's hard to be. He's not consistent. And that's what killed us in Philly. He just wasn't consistent. He could throw the ball great. He could pitch well one game, and the next thing you know, you got four clunkers, and then you're like, do we really need this guy?
Right. That's a perfect point.
So what happens? Here's the big thing, off season, and even during the season at the end. Aaron Boone's got to go. We don't want Aaron Boone. Aaron Boone sucks. We need to get rid of Aaron Boone. Aaron Boone is still the manager of the New York Yankees. Did he sign an extension?
Yeah, unfortunately.
I thought he did. Corroborating that, Julian. Yes, he did. I thought I saw
So
that.
I just fed into the narrative too, because I'm not his biggest fan. I'm really not so into him. I just think he's very blah sometimes. Like the answers he gives are very uninspiring. Like it's just like a recycled quotes from him. Like it's not funny. It's not cute. Like we're trying to win the World Series, and he's like, oh, we're close. Like he's like, we're this close. Like they're closing the gap on us. So the gap's been closed. The Yankees are not the Yankees anymore. Like can we get this thing together? I'm not taking the playoff entrances and keeping and just losing every year. Like come through, win it all, at least get to the World Series. Like I've heard enough excuses at this point. Like I think the team's in a good position now. I just don't think I don't know if he's the right guy. I mean, he's not a terrible manager. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
I just don't think he's a top tier guy by any means. I would put it that way.
Okay, so as we all know, this day and age. I mean, it's been like this way for you forever, though. You got to grow. You got to get better from within. Free agents are great,
Mm-hmm.
but you're telling me that you said before there's depth down in the pitching ranks,
Yeah,
AAA. What
tons
do
of it.
what do we have? Are we going to be at some point looking at a potential uh, really good Yankees team in the next couple of years?
Yeah, I'm actually really happy you brought that up. And with Boone, it's another thing I'll say is quickly. Like, I don't know how much power he has. I feel like the front office makes a lot of decisions too. So I guess it's tough for me to fully criticize because I don't know like what he decides and what he doesn't. There's been
Right.
a lot of misconceptions and things said about that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I love the Yankees farm system. I'm actually going to be in Somerset a lot this year covering their games. I'm going to be in the box. I got to hang out with Anthony Volpe's family
Nice.
down at spring training. He's the best prospect the Yankees have had in quite some time. He's going to be in Double A to start the year. Very excited. The pitching staff is great. I'm doing an article on Hayden Wesneski, Ken Waldichuk, and a pitcher named Sean Boyle. These are three pitchers everyone should pay attention to.
Okay.
Waldichuk's actually the best prospect the Yankees have in the pitching ranks. He's their sixth overall now. He's going to be in Double A. Hayden Wesneski's their third best. He's ranked eighth overall. He's in Triple A. And Boyle's in Double A. He's very under the radar, but he's someone worth paying attention to. And their infield depth is tremendous. I mean, you have John Oswald Peraza is a short in Triple
Okay.
A. They have like four shortstops. They have Alexander Vargas, who's in Low A. He's a stud. I got to meet him. And then you have Trey Sweeney, a first round pick. He's a stud too, and he's in High A now. So the Yankees shortstop depth is ridiculous. That's why you didn't see the free agent splash move.
Right.
So they're gonna trust that, and I understand it. I support it to a sense. Like I just don't know how you keep all of them, even though some could change positions. So I think you'll see some trades next year, like maybe the deadline or something.
Right.
Volpe's untouchable though. I think he starts there next year. Their infield's in a great spot. I will say their outfield. They got two guys. Obviously, Jason Dominguez. Everyone knows Dominguez. That's not
Yes.
breaking any news. He's
Right.
going to start in Tampa Bay.
Mm-hmm.
But there's two outfielders, actually three outfielders, I'll say to look out for. You're going to want to check out Elijah Dunham. He's going to be in Double A. He was in the Fall League All Stars last year. Everson Pereira is one of the top prospects the Yankees have. He's going to be in Hudson Valley. And then someone who goes under the radar who could be a casualty to the Rule 5 when it returns is Brandon Lockridge. He's going to be in, I think they bumped him up to AAA, actually. Actually, no, I think he's still Double A. But Lockridge is a stud. He is still Double A, but he's a good player. I think his OPS is like over 1,000 last year.
Yeah. So from what you're saying as the expert here, yeah, this is a team to watch out for. This is a team.
It's
to look
something
for.
I've been taking more pride in doing, like checking out the farm system, like trying to get myself more into that minor league niche.
Yeah.
Been trying to diversify myself into that range. And someone else I'll speak on is Austin Wells. I got to interview him down there. He's going to be a nice prospect too. He's a catcher. He's going to be in the High A this year. I hope to see him make that jump to Somerset this season so I could watch him closer. I mean, I'll do some Hudson Valley too, and maybe Scranton as well, and Tampa. I'm going to mix my hat in all of it this year. But I think the Yankee system If I had to put a ranking on it, an organic one, I would say they rank in like the 9 to 10 range, maybe in Major League Baseball. I know
Okay.
some sites vary. It depends who you talk to. It depends how they rate certain guys, but I'll
Right.
say the Yankees have a borderline top 10 farm system at least.
All right. Good for you guys, because the Phillies are probably more like we know the Phillies are bottom 10. Enough said about that. Okay, the name of the show is The Burn with Mitch. So the burn is what really bugs you. It could be baseball. It could be life. Most people have said when I ask them the question, they say they keep it to baseball. So Julian Gularte, did I say that right?
Yeah, you got me right.
Perfect. What is your burn?
Okay, I think you'll like this one.
Oh,
Umpires in the strike zone and the bad calls. I cannot like bad calls irritate the hell out of me. Like I
okay.
don't understand how we have so many horrendous calls at this point with all the technology we have. Like you saw it last year. I think it's like I don't even want I think it's the worst I've ever seen last year. Like it's not getting better, it's getting worse. Like it just really bothers me. I know one game the Yankees got closed on a ball like in the other batter's box to Rougned Odor and it ended the game. Like you could see it on the graphic how outside it was. I know it's a tough job, and I'm not an expert umpire by any means. I just don't understand how we have so many issues with that strike zone still. And then Aaron Judge gets hosed more than any player. Like they call these low strikes on him, so that
Yeah.
definitely bothers me too. I know he's a big guy and everything, but just figure it out across the knee. Like it's not that hard, I don't think. But no one can seem to figure out his strike zone. I just hate seeing the game impacted by bad calls.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things real quick. The robo ump's a possibility.
Hmm.
And I'm gonna my next guest, Craig, who's coming on in a few minutes. He's not as old as I am, but he goes back to the age where we watched baseball back in the 70s and 60s. And I don't remember seeing so many egregious, like you're saying. I mean,
Yeah.
you watching the game on TV, you can see where the ball is, and the umps are just calling them out. I mean, you're right. It's tough. Listen, everybody does the best they can, like you said, but there's got to be a way. There's got to be a way, guys. Here's the strike zone. Just call it the way you see it. If it's 3 inches inside, it's not a strike. If it's 4 inches, if it's up here, it's. And I don't. I get the appeals, which is fine. That get it right, and on other plays.
Yeah.
But come on, man, really.
The
And I
worst
think
ones to yeah.
the problem is. Here's what the problem is we're watching it at home, right? And we
Yeah.
have the box.
Right. Yeah. The box isn't always
The box
realistic.
is
So I
killing the umpires.
right.
It's
The
it's
box
the
is murdering the
technology.
umpires. The box is literally murdering them. But the other thing that gets me, I'll say two things quickly. I mean, the outside zone, I see the outside part of the zone seems to be the biggest issue in the low strike to me. That's what seems to be the biggest
Mhm.
problem to me. Those are the two that seem to be very off. And then sometimes you'll see a pitch right down the middle. They don't call it a strike somehow. I'm like, are they watching the same thing we're watching? Like, I
You
don't
get you,
understand. But the other thing with that is, which I don't understand, that the MLB made a system to evaluate the umpires and they like judge them based on how they perform. But I don't really see any consequences coming with that. Like when they don't do well, like what happens if you don't do well? Like I don't know.
I don't know. That might be a question for my next guest, Craig
Let me
Calcaterra.
know what he says if you get
Okay,
that one through.
all right. Maybe we'll start with that because I got a lot of stuff for him. He's got a new book out, and you'll hear more about it as if you're able to listen and watch the replay. But listen, Julian, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on with your expert knowledge of the Yankees and baseball in general. Enjoy the season. Have fun at and listen. I think you're living the dream a little bit with your going to see these kids in in the minor leagues. Sounds like you're having a blast, which is great.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. If you want me another time, let me know. My box is always open on Twitter. I'll always be checking. And now my other question before I go: are you posting this on your YouTube channel too? Because I'll share it again, like when it's fully out, or is it just
Yeah,
running now?
it'll be on. Yeah, it's we don't have it on YouTube, but it'll be on my Twitter page, and I
Okay.
can share it with you.
Okay. Yeah, I retweeted the live link, but I'll
Thank
share
you
it more like when it's officially out too. Like maybe get more looks at it tomorrow or something. I appreciate it. It was good conversation. It was
so much.
definitely
Thank
fun.
you.
Good
Thank you
luck
so
to your
much.
Phils this year too.
Thank you. Appreciate that. We'll see what happens. It's like I said, baseball is being played Thursday. We can't wait.
Yep. I hope we don't
Right.
get washed out Thursday because we might have some weather issues up here. I don't know what the Phillies are for opening day, but
Yeah. Well, yeah. You know what? We're getting thunderstorms. It's raining here now in North Carolina, Wilmington. We're getting thunderstorms tonight. But there's no. I'll tell you, and Craig is listening to me. It's killing me. I got to go see the Durham Bulls, which is fine. I want to go see them. The Myrtle Beach Pelicans, okay. So the Phillies just sent me a birthday offer from December. I'm going to go back up there in August, I think, with my wife.
There you go.
Get a 2-for-1 ticket, and we'll probably stay a weekend, and I'll go to all 3 games wherever I'm at.
Now, the one thing I'll say quickly before you go is, do you think Charlotte's suitable to have an MLB team if in the future if they wanted to expand MLB?
I think so. It's a growing city. I was talking to someone last weekend. It is growing like crazy. They can't keep up with the housing permits. So, yeah, I think it will be. Yeah,
that's an interesting case. I mean, I think they have a chance if you add 2 teams and you figure out the Tampa Bay and the Oakland situation. But we'll see. Yeah. All right, this was fun. Thank you.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it.
Anytime.
All right, so thank you, Julian. A great information on the Yankees, and it was nice to him to check on the Phillies too. So I appreciate that and taking his time to come on tonight. All right, next one. This man is great. He's opinionated, which I love. I told you before at the beginning of the show, if you don't have the subscription to his cup of coffee in the morning, it's not just baseball. It's life things and things that I love to watch. I get a different perspective. So let's welcome in former national NBC baseball writer for NBC and other things, sports and baseball and life, Craig Calcaterra. Craig, how are you?
Doing well, Mitch. How are you?
Great. First thing I must ask, how is your dad?
Oh, he's doing great. He's home from the hospital. He's, for those who don't know, my dad just had bypass surgery about a month ago. Then he went back in the hospital because, hey, everything starts breaking down, right? But he's doing all right. The ticker's holding up, and, you hold off infections and do all those things that happen to you when you're 78, 79 years old. That's what happens.
Yeah, good. All right. I'm glad to hear that. That's great. Great.
Thanks.
Let's talk about what we just talked about with Julian with these umpires. Do you see, Craig, like I do, watching games? Really, the umpires are just, a lot of them are off, right?
They are. And look, I have to say things like, hey, it's a hard job, because it is a hard job. But you know what? All of our jobs are hard. Well, my job's not hard. I have an easy job. But those guys have a hard job, and baseball players have a hard job, and everybody does. My problem with it is it's what Julian brought up, right? Is the accountability. We know that it's not public. That the umpires have a union. They've negotiated a deal with MLB where they're not coming out and saying, well, last week Tim Timmons missed 7 pitches in this and blah blah blah. We're not going to hear that.
Right.
But we also don't see any apparent meritocracy when it comes to the umpires. You see the same guys that have been there years and years and years, and there's a lot of competition in umpiring, just as there is in playing. There are guys in the minors and women now in the minors who, work their way up, and a lot of them are probably better. But, you're just hitting the seniority bump or something, and I get it. I mean, you negotiate that, whatever. But it's frustrating. It's frustrating to watch. I think we'd all feel a little bit better about it if we heard more things, if umpires had to answer questions sometimes about things that happen.
Right.
They're never going to be popular. I mean, it's like they're going to be the bad guy. We get it. So I understand why they want to be a little bit more protected, but it is frustrating as a fan.
Yeah, it really is. And you've been doing this for many, many years at baseball, like I said before. And it is frustrating. There really is nothing that we can do about it. We just want to make sure that we know there's incompetencies, and maybe you write about this in the book. I don't know. We'll get to that in a minute. But it is just frustrating. And of course, you're a fan of your team, and you get screwed by a bad call, and hell breaks loose, and these umps suck, and but that's why we're fans, because we love to bitch and moan when our team loses, and when they win, it's okay. Well, listen. It's funny when you don't have anybody you're really rooting for, like last night's championship game, right? Kansas and North Carolina. You can say, "Yeah, man, they got a break. You didn't call that foul," right? But then, and then that's all part of fandom, right? That's all part of what you probably wrote about. But we're so attached to our teams, and we take it personally, right?
Oh yeah.
And do you write about, so let's talk about the book. Let's get
Absolutely.
about
You're
okay.
That's a perfect way to get right into it. So,
Okay.
the whole point of the book, and it's not a long read, folks. You could sit and read this thing in part of an afternoon.
Oh, by the way,
Um,
Craig got a sale today from
Oh, yeah.
me tweeting it. So I asked him for my, commission check. So we'll see.
Let's see.
He put a little cyber smiley face on there, but that's okay. Go ahead.
I get X
I digress.
percentage of each one, and then you get X percentage of X percentage. It's better off if I just buy you a coffee, Mitch.
All right.
And so the whole point of the book, it's called Rethinking Fandom, not Rejecting Fandom. I
Right.
don't believe it. I complain a lot in this book about sports. I complain a lot about what's going on, about what the owners do, what the leagues do, what the commissioners do, what the businesses that surround the game do. I complain a little bit about certain sorts of fans who take the fun out of it for people. But the one thing I don't do is tell you to not be a sports fan. This book wouldn't exist if that was the answer. I would just say, well, give up sports. Don't do it. No, I love sports. I made my living out of it.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm wanting people to do is to do two things, really. Make sure that sports are fun. Make sure that you're getting enjoyment out of them, right? That's the point. That's why we got to them anyway. And we can talk about how people seem to forget that. The other thing I want you to do is to make sure sports hold a certain place in your life that isn't too big and doesn't cause you to be taken advantage of by what I call in the book the sports industrial complex, right? These are the owners, the teams, the businesses, the leagues, the TV networks. They know we love sports. We are passionate about them. We are emotional about them. We are often irrational about them. And because of that, they feel like they can get away with murder, and they often do. They could soak us for a huge tax hike to pay for a stadium for a billionaire, even though that guy could afford to buy one himself.
Right.
They threaten to leave our town and beg us to give them more because, what's going to happen if we lose our team? They also do things like cut all the good players or trade away all the good players and cut the payroll down to nothing and put a dog crap product on the field because they know we'll still be there because we love those colors. We love that jersey. We love the history of the team. Those are the sorts of things that sports will do. I don't think that we as fans have the power to make them change that, right? People talk about fan protests and petitions. Those aren't ever going to go anywhere.
Doesn't happen, right?
But what we do have the power to do is to make sure that they don't make us miserable and that they don't take up more of our life and our time and our emotions than they really should, given what we're getting back. I want it to be an even exchange. They give us a good product that we can enjoy and cheer for and have some fun with. We give them a little bit of our money and a lot of our time. That's how it should be. My issue in the book is that has become uneven. Okay.
You just mentioned, I'm sure you were referencing the Oakland A's.
Oh, that's a huge one. Yeah. The Oakland A's, the Cleveland Guardians, the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Baltimore Orioles. Those are the ones that we go jump ahead right now. You want to talk about my burn? That's my burn right now.
Okay, good. All right. That's awesome. That's great. Yes. Yeah. I mean, a buddy of mine when I was working in Pennsylvania at the school, Orioles fan, and he just throws up his hands. The guy has money, but they don't spend it. The Oakland A's, we've all watched this team get decimated. A $33 million payroll, really? And you have how much money coming in on your TV revenues just this year? Probably $65 million.
Yep. That's right. And that's just national. That's not even the local. Like if you're the Orioles, you get more from your local TV deal too.
And I haven't. In Philly, I experienced, the last, I don't make too much of it, and I may be the fan that you're talking about, that I don't make too much of it that they, quote, haven't made the playoffs in 10 years. If I were in Philly, I'd be going to 10 games a year, watching them play, get pissed off when somebody throws an 0-2 pitch for a home run.
Oh, that's okay.
But to me, it's not.
Here's the thing. It's okay to get pissed off at that 0-2 pitch that he gives up a home run on, as long as 2 innings later, when Bryce Harper hits a double and drives in 2, you're happy again. The problem is when that guy gives up that home run and you're mad for 4 days. Okay. Now that doesn't happen in baseball so much. Baseball fans are a little bit more immune to that because there's so many games.
Games, right?
I live in Columbus, Ohio.
Right.
And the Ohio State Buckeyes are here.
Yes.
And there's a thing that happens, right? They're one of the most successful sports teams in the history of the world, right?
Yep.
And every single year they are expected to win.
Absolutely.
It's to a point here in my town where people not only expect them to win every single game, but if they don't win every game by enough points, they're mad. And that's a mad that lasts for days, and it affects the mood of the city. I have a chapter in here about how I was a huge Ohio State fan. I'm an alumni. I graduated from Ohio State. For 27 years. I rooted for the Buckeyes. I've given it up. And I gave it up because I started to realize they lost a bowl game once, like 12 years ago. And it was a bowl game they should have lost. They were playing a better team. They were playing like USC or somebody who was better than them at the time. And I was mad for like 3 days. And I looked myself in the mirror. I said, what the hell am I doing here? Why?
Right.
This is sports. I'm supposed to have fun with this. And that's what I want to get away from as sports fans.
Right. So you're putting the onus, it sounds like, on each of us who are fans, you know?
It's not our fault. I'm going to tell us this. It's not our fault. It is our responsibility to find a way to be a more constructive and happy and fulfilled sports fan, but it's not our fault. I mean, as I spend the first half of the book talking about everything that has come together to sort of create a situation that allows this toxic fandom to sort of exist. You know, and some of it we've already talked about how the owners handle things, about how the media hypes things, about how the ticket prices have gone through the roof. So if we go to a game and it doesn't go the way we want it to, we're even more mad because that was a huge outlay that we just laid. You know, how everything is luxury now. Everything is a huge deal. Whereas before, baseball used to be 162 games over the course of the summer. Some matter, some didn't, and we could let it go for a while. So we're in this situation that has been created for us, and we need to defend ourselves, and we need to preserve ourselves. And I think we need to stand up for ourselves.
So I'm going to interpret that as, again, the onus is on us as individuals to do that.
I think so.
We can't control. It's not our money. Right? The owners, they do what they want. The managers do what they want. The general managers, we are fans looking for entertainment. We want our teams to win and play well. And in Philadelphia, as you probably know, hard every day.
Oh, yeah.
In every single sport. Okay.
Oh, yeah. I'm sometimes I've been a guest on WIP.
Okay.
in the morning. And, you know, you offer one little comment and you got 15 callers calling in right now about how angry they are about some little thing that didn't matter in yesterday's Eagles game. That is a hardcore sports city.
It is. It really is. It's crazy. It's nuts.
I don't know that there's one that's more.
So let me ask you this. How much do you talk about social media's influence at all on this? Because I see a lot of it. I mean, just for Twitter, especially. Twitter's good. Twitter gets me in contact with folks like you. Love it. Gets me in touch with my guests. Absolutely amazing. But it can be, as we know, really nasty.
It can be.
Something.
I don't talk about it so much in the book, but I think it's an extension of part of it. I mean, it's not unlike, you know, certain types of talk radio that the traffic in negativity or the you know, the Stephen A. Smith or you know, that kind of stuff. Those shout shows that are designed to stoke outrage. That's not helpful, I don't think. If you like it and you get enjoyment, there are some people. Look, my temperament is such that I'll argue about sports on an intellectual basis all day, but if it starts getting really heated, I get a little turned off. There are other people that live for that, and if you live for that, that's fine. Don't get rid of it. Make sure you're doing what you enjoy. So I don't have a problem with really any way someone's a fan. I'm not telling people in this book how to be the right kind of fan. You need to be the right kind of fan for you. The only limiting factor there is, are you still enjoying yourself? Are you still getting joy out of this rather than being made miserable? But when you say the onus is on us, this is where I get into a little controversial territory here.
Okay.
We have things we can do if, you know, say the Phillies are a bad example right now, because I think they've really tried these last couple of years. They've gone out and got a lot of players. I mean, they're not going to catch the ball for crap, but it's going to be fun to watch. I'll tell you that. But, you know, say you're a fan of the Baltimore Orioles, like your friend. And that's a franchise that has a rich history. All right. There have been Hall of Famers. There are World Series championships. There have been a lot of good there's been a lot of good baseball in Baltimore.
Hall of Famers. Yeah, right. Exactly.
It's a good baseball town.
Absolutely.
And for the last several years, it's the Angelos kids, it's the boys, not Peter Angelos, who have been running this team into the ground, trying to cut costs at every little possibility. My guess is because they want to sell the team once the old man dies, and they're trying to have as few contracts and things out there to make it more valuable. But you're sitting and you're watching that. At some point, the social contract we have with the teams we root for, of we give them our loyalty and our money and our time, and they give us at least an effort to win, breaks down. Why are we obligated to still root for that team? I know part of it is emotional and historical.
Right.
Maybe your dad
Right.
was an Orioles fan. Maybe you live in Baltimore. Maybe it's been your whole life. I'm not saying it's easy to give up, and I'm not saying anybody has to, but it's okay if you do. I have friends who've done that. I have friends who have been a fan of a basketball team or a hockey team that for decades has just been terrible, and the owners don't seem to care, and the product suffers, and it's just no good. You know, if you're an A's fan and Orioles fan, I have a chapter in this book called "Be a Fair Weather Fan." It's a dirty word among sports fans. It's, oh, you're just a fair weather fan.
Right.
I don't think there's anything wrong with it. In extreme situations, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, you know what, I'm done with the Orioles. I'm going to go root for the Nationals, or I'm going to go root for the Red Sox, or something else. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because if the answer and the only check you're giving in your brain is this fun for me anymore? Do I enjoy this, or do I turn on that Orioles game and just get disgusted every day? If that's the answer, I think it's totally fine to be a fair weather fan.
Yeah, I mean, I agree in some way, shape, or form. But you know what's funny? You know what's and it really hit me. And I don't know if you have, again, is this in the book? I bet you it's not, and it's not controversial, but it could be. So you've heard of Ellen Adair, right? She's a actor.
Yeah.
And she's a Phillies fan. She's been on the show. Love her to death.
Yeah, I've come across her on Twitter a couple times.
Yeah, she is so funny because, and this is the first time, like when I first started following her, for the first time, she mentions players who she loves on other teams.
Oh, I have a whole chapter about that.
Oh, do you do? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's another thing. So the way the book's set up is I spend the first 4 or 5 chapters complaining about this is what the owners do, this is what the sports industrial complex, and then I present solutions. One of which is be a fair weather fan. Another one is be a casual fan. Make sure you just take a step back a little bit. Still enjoy your Phillies games, but maybe don't watch as many of them, or maybe don't follow all the talk radio or whatever. Just back off a little bit and just enjoy the games. But one is root for players. If you are disgusted with the guys that own your team, you can still enjoy those players on the team and you know, maybe not hope for the best for the franchise. And if they got rid of a player that you love, he doesn't suddenly become your enemy. He doesn't have to. Right. If I'm a Red Sox fan and Mookie Betts got traded to the Dodgers a few years ago when he really shouldn't have been traded to the Dodgers, I know the Red Sox had wound up okay out of it a little bit. But if you love Mookie Betts, there's nothing stopping you from rooting for Mookie Betts. Maybe you're limited it. Maybe it's only, I will only root for Mookie Betts, but not when he plays the Red Sox, or I'll root for him when he's playing National League teams or something. But it's okay to follow the players. They're the basic unit of measure for sports anyway. I know we root for the Los Angeles Dodgers or the Boston Red Sox, but we're watching for the players. I've increasingly done that. Part of this all came because, you know, once I started writing for NBC 13 years ago, you know, you don't watch just one team anymore. You follow every team. I got to know what's going on all 30 teams. And you start to see things like I'll watch highlights of a Brewers game. I might never watch a Brewers game, but you watch a Brewers game for a little while and, you know, you see a player who's really, really good. And maybe you want to watch him for a little bit. And then you turn on something else. You turn on the Blue Jays and that Vlad Guerrero kid. He's amazing. You could root for them to do well. You don't have to necessarily just root for a team. And I know that's hard. I know that's unnatural in a lot of ways because the team is what the unit is we're expected to be behind. But it doesn't have to be that way. And I find myself rooting for players all the time. I want to see Mike Trout win a Triple Crown. And I don't care what happens to the Angels.
It's so funny because as you're saying all this, I'm thinking about when I was a kid and I would tell people, you know, Saturday game of the week, there was one game on. Tony Kubek and Kurt Gowdy, right?
Yep.
I didn't care. My team didn't have to be playing. There were so many players that I watched back in vintage time. That was so much fun to watch on every single team.
And it was probably the only chance you got to see him other than like the All-Star game.
Exactly, because you had ABC, CBS, and NBC, and that was it. And it was the NBC game of the week. And I said, it was interesting back then because and again, there was fewer teams, so you could really home in on pretty much all of them. I mean, this is when there was 10 and 10, right?
Mhm.
I go way back. I'm older than you. But it was so different now to a degree. But what I still love is the fact that you have the ability to watch the Wander Francos, the Guerreros, the Tatises, these young kids coming up and hitting or pitching or playing so well. Yes, if they happen to be playing against the Phillies, I still want to watch it. Yes, I want to watch them play. Do I want to see him strike out 4 times? Absolutely. But to have to me, and maybe this is because I've gotten older, the luxury of having the ability to watch these kids play
Mm-hmm.
is baseball, the game I love, and even any sport really that I love to watch. I feel privileged to be able to watch him.
In a lot of ways, we're better off now than ever. I mean, I complain a lot in this book about the state of things, but in a lot of ways, as a baseball fan, we're better off than ever. Even if I can't stay up late, I'm old. I don't stay up late. I can't stay up late at all.
No, because that cup of coffee comes out at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Oh yeah. I'm writing early, and I'm waking up at 5.
You are right.
But in the summer when I'm doing recaps, what I frequently do a lot of is I have MLB.TV. I will go. They have condensed games. I can watch some of that, or I see the box score and I know what happened when, and I want to see that happen. So I'll go back to the 3rd inning and I'll see what happened when Wander Franco laced that triple. I'll do things like that, and it's just a great way to see so much. And I remember, it was 12 and 14 when I was a kid, and I got the sporting news, but I still only had that NBC game of the week, right? Until ESPN started in the late 80s, right? But in the early 80s, when I was 11, 12 years old, all I got was that same game, and I could imagine what some of these players looked like until the All-Star game. All I could see until I was 11 were Detroit Tigers games, and that was it. And now we could see them all. It's fantastic.
Yes.
And we can open our mind as fans because of that, right? That's the thing. We don't have to just be total in the boot for our local team.
Right. But I also think it's generational. Again, for me, having gone through the 60s and watched these guys play and have an appreciation for the game and love watching these players, where the younger, and I'll say the word millennials, are really, and maybe that's where the way I would be too. I mean, it's just a generational thing in terms of the opportunity to watch all these guys play and to be thankful. And when I turned 50, Craig, I vowed that whenever I would see an athlete in person, specifically baseball, I would thank them. And I did it to Mike Schmidt once. He was at a book signing in Pennsylvania, and I said, Mike, I was a Mets fan, a Phillies fan first before you came. Then I became a Mets fan, blah, blah, blah. I have to tell you, thank you for allowing me to watch you play the game the way you played it. I loved the way you played the game. And he looked at me and he goes, that's really nice of you to say thank you very much.
Nice.
And that made me feel really good, because I think again, to watch them is a privilege for me as a fan. And now, like I said, I have MLB package. I can watch more of these, which is going to be great. But we're so lucky to be able to, like you said, have all this access right now to all of these.
We're lucky to have it,
game.
And we could take advantage of it in so many ways to view the games differently if we want to. And that's the one thing I would like people to do with sports.
Absolutely. All right. Did you tell me you did say you're burned, but were you being facetious, or were you being the truthful?
Oh, that's actually it. That's really the number one thing I'm on about. And I'll actually refine it a little bit so I get a bit of a different answer. The thing that makes me mad are these teams that aren't competing, that aren't even trying, that are mailing it in, tanking, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that causes that, maybe this is my real burn today, is we have a divorce in baseball between what makes money and what's good for the fan. It used to be, until relatively recently, that if you didn't put at least a passable product on the field, people wouldn't show up at the ballpark. And if they didn't show up at the ballpark, you were sunk. There were owners that would constantly have to sell their teams, declare bankruptcy, whatever, because they couldn't draw fans. Because of the way TV works and real estate and gambling and all this other side money that all these teams bring in, it's not side money anymore. What's side money now is the gate, the ticket sales.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So what can happen now is you are free of consequence if you put like I said earlier, a dog crap product on the field because you're still going to make your money. I don't like that those incentives are gone now because that screws up the entire whole point of sports, which is we try to win so we attract the fans. They don't have to do that anymore. I don't know how we fix that. And that's a huge problem, I think, for baseball.
That is. Craig, I know you came on before, a couple of years ago, and we just did it on the radio, on talking. Thank God I have this stream now. I love talking to people. I'm so glad I got to see you in person. It's just awesome. I love the cup of coffee, dude. I read it every morning, and I encourage folks to do the same thing. Greg has got a lot of humor. He's got a lot of what's the word? He gets angry sometimes.
It's not handsomeness. How about passion? Here we go.
Passion. He's very passionate about everything he writes. Yeah, it's great.
I do have things that I get angry about. I try to be funny to balance it out. But yeah, I mean, it's my tub. I thump it. That's what I do.
That's exactly, and I love it. So thank you for providing that for my entertainment in the morning. That's great.
Well, thank you, Mitch. It's very, very nice of you to say, and it's I'm happy to do it. Like they say, if you get a job that you love, you never work a day in your life, and that's where I'm at.
And I think Josh Rawitz coming up in just a second as the president of the Baseball Hall of Fame is going to tell me the same thing.
I knew Josh back when he was just a PR flack for the
Dodgers. Is that right?
You tell him I said hi. He's a great guy.
I will. Craig, thank you so much. I really appreciated your time. It's been great.
Thank you very much, Mitch. Anytime.
Thank you. All right. And as I said, I have never spoken to a president before. And this is the president of any organization I would love to talk to. The president of the Baseball Hall of Fame. Oh my gosh, Josh Rawitz. Josh, how are you?
I'm doing great, Mitch. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. I have had a great time this evening with my guest, Julian Gularte, talking about the Yankees. Craig, as he mentioned, you know each other with his new book.
He was routinely he was on the beat when I was at the Dodgers, and the beat, but he was basically covering the divorce of the McCourts. So I had to read this like required reading every day.
Wow, that's interesting. Talk about that. Yeah, that was a big story back then, wasn't it?
Yeah, sure was.
So thanks for coming on. I really appreciate you taking the time. I mentioned to Craig, he's talking about fandom and has social media played a part, and I believe it has. But there's also good parts, and part of the good parts is the ability to connect with people like yourself and Craig. This is amazing for me. I don't get paid for this. I just love baseball and love sports, and I am so thrilled and thankful for you to come on tonight. Thank you so much.
That's kind of you to say, and I can hear in your voice how passionate you are about the game. And look, that's what any of us who've spent a lifetime loving it, and in my case, basically my whole lifetime working in it.
Yeah,
that's all we want. People who love the game, and I appreciate you having me on.
No problem. So I want to show you a couple of things before I get into your career, your transition to this position, and induction ceremony coming up. So 1990, before 1999, I'll show you this. In 2019, the last parade we had, the last induction ceremony, right? I had these pictures in my hand. The parade was the first time I've been to the parade. It was, Josh, I was freaking out. It was so much fun. Oh my gosh. Then the guys get out of the cars and the trucks. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And so Craig Biggio was in the car. Craig Biggio in Houston. I worked for the city of Bel Air, sits within the southwest part of Houston. I would have guests come out to my sports camp. The day Craig Biggio arrived in Houston, he drove from Smithtown in his brother's white BMW. There he is sitting down talking to the kids.
Oh, that's awesome.
Don't pay attention to that geeky guy. Only this guy right here.
That's awesome.
Is that not crazy?
Yeah.
Is that nuts? And here we were outside talking, and we were just talking with the kids, right? So he's pulling up. And then I'm thinking, oh, God, get out of the car. I want to show you these pictures. I actually mailed it to the Astros, and it came back because he was working for a special assistant.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, so his wife saw, I think his wife in the background, in the back seat, saw this picture. And she went like this. I said, this is Craig's first day in Houston. I got to get these to him somehow.
That's great.
If I mail these to the Hall of Fame, will you guys be able to get them to him? Or what do you think? How would I do that?
Yeah, if you send it to us, we generally can't really take mass mail for Hall of Famers. It becomes pretty cumbersome. But certainly, if you're asking for it, I'm happy to do that. Make sure it gets in his hands when I see him.
That'd be awesome. I mean, and I wrote him a letter talking about his coming in. So
that's really cool.
That was great. And then, Josh, I have to show you something also. So, collectibles. This was my favorite one ever. It is now in your possession at the Hall of Fame. I donated this full
very cool.
4,000 strikeout ticket signed by Nolan to the Hall of Fame.
Oh, that's awesome. What a cool collector's item.
I'm telling you, and I'm thinking, and we're ready to move last year, and I did this during the pandemic, and I was like, what am I, I'm not going to ever sell this, but this is a part of history. This is the 4,000th strikeout game, full ticket, signed by the man, my favorite pitcher, along with Tom Seaver. I'm going to see if the Hall of Fame wants it. And you know what? That could be my legacy. So I sent it in. I got the letter here thanking me for I love it. I mean, It was just.
I mean, I don't think people realize, most people don't realize how much of our collection comes from people like you who ultimately look and they say, I want to help tell the story of baseball history. I happen to experience something, and then they offer it as a donation, and it ends up being preserved forever in our hands. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's whenever people ask me, I say this is it. This is the one, because it was a historical game. July 11th. Took some kids from the Jewish Community Center sports camp on an overnight. We went to the game. I had extra tickets. Kids didn't show up. Nolan Ryan the following fall is signing at Oshman's sports store for free. Wow. Nolan, do you remember this game? No. Oh, yeah. Oh, 4,000 strikeout. Oh, yeah. Freaking out. I'm getting the chills talking about it.
Wow, that's so cool.
Awesome. So, Josh, you've been in baseball for a long time. Did you ever think you would get to this position? What happened? How did this happen for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because there's been a lot of us who have been fortunate to work a career in baseball. And I don't know that any of us, it's interesting, when you're at a team, you don't tend to think of Cooperstown as the place where you're going to end up. Really we mostly think about other teams. And in so many cases, people work for the same team forever. And I thought I'd work for the Dodgers forever until my old boss of the Dodgers went to the Diamondbacks and brought me there. But no, I mean, there was never a thought in my career like, wow, maybe I'd someday end up working in Cooperstown. And it really just kind of came about with the previous president, Jeff Idelson, who called and just said, hey, I think you'd really be a great fit for this position. I don't know if you'd ever consider it, but I think you'd be a really good person for this. And came home and I said to my wife, you're not going to believe the call I got today. And I just remember her saying, how would you ever say no to something like that if that opportunity presented itself? So I'm very lucky. I've got the support of my family. I've got 2 great kids. Everybody picked up. We moved across the country, and we're living here in Cooperstown. The lake is right here in front of me, and we've got it pretty good.
Yeah. So what were they looking for? Really, what were they looking for, Josh? What kind of person were they looking for to be this person as president of the Hall of Fame?
My sense is a couple of things. One, obviously, if you're going to be the president of any company, you have to have a business sense. You have to understand leadership and how to motivate a staff and how to build staff and how to essentially run a company. And I feel very lucky that over the last decade that at the Diamondbacks, I had a great mentor in Derek Hall and several others who just really, I got to learn what it takes to run a company. So clearly the business sense to do that. But then also I think someone who understands working with players and working with Hall of Famers. I mean, I've spent much of my career in working specifically with players, and obviously there's a level of, I think, I don't know what the right word is, but I mean intimidation maybe that some people would have when you pick up the phone and you got to call Nolan Ryan or Craig Biggio and just say, hey, I'm checking. Like I think that a lot of people who haven't necessarily spent as much time around big leaguers as I have, that might be intimidating. So certainly I think the connections that I've made over the years in the game, whether it was media, players, other people at other teams, I think all of those things kind of, I guess, in their eyes, made me a pretty good candidate for this.
And people person, obviously, you're working with people all the time. You're supervising staff. Absolutely. Very key. Very key. Yeah. I must say that I can't end this without thanking you and Bruce Marcus during the pandemic. Who knew this was going to go happen, right? He has done amazing job for a lot of people, not just me, but a lot of people, keeping us engaged with his program on Zoom. It was awesome, and I try to get to some of them now. A lot of them I can't because I'm working.
Yeah.
But kudos to him. I mean, that program with all those folks that came on was just terrific, and it's still he still does have the speaker series come every once in a while, so it's awesome. I just want to pass that along to you because that was
I will share that with them, and honestly, it's what's interesting is there's so many people that were working behind the scenes during the pandemic to make this stuff happen, and obviously Bruce was the face and did an incredible job in hosting these. During the pandemic, I was actually using some of the education resources we have. I remember there was the Safe at Home education program, and I'm basically teaching, as all of our kids are at home. I'm teaching my son through the Hall of Fame curriculum. So there's so many people that had to completely just adjust, not just at the Hall of Fame, but in the world, adjust how we operate. And Bruce did an incredible job along with everybody at the Hall that just, you make it work, and it's a labor of love. People don't work here because they're making a fortune. People work here because they're helping preserve history, and they're helping connect generations and honor these legends. It's really an unbelievable place to come to work.
I know. I can't imagine. I can't imagine, except for the weather. I mean, that would be my turn off. Sorry.
Believe me, you're not the first person to mention it, and I hear it quite a bit. So
I'm sure. But listen, for what you're doing, again, when you make, so we watched the and I'm not gonna talk about anything really specific about the Hall of Fame. I know I can't put you in a difficult situation.
You're good. Whatever you want to say is totally fine or ask.
But you have to be. How excited are you to get up and say, and the new members of the Hall of Fame? How I watched. I mean, we have thousands, millions of people watched. How excited were you to do that?
It's really, really hard to put into words when you grow up a fan like you did or like I did. And I was transcribing stats taking them out of the paper and just, all the playing rotisserie baseball when I was 10 years old and played baseball through high school. But to love the sport at this level, and then oddly enough, the first person I ever announced was going into the Hall of Fame was actually Gil Hodges in the December vote. And he was somebody that I actually worked on camp when I was at the Dodgers. We tried to figure out how can we get this guy into the Hall of Fame. And we never succeeded, but ultimately to have somebody like that or Buck O'Neil or David Ortiz, it is an incredible honor. Humbling doesn't even really begin to say it. Obviously for anybody that watches the induction ceremonies, I get to sit on the stage with these guys, and it just doesn't even. You don't belong. That this is you're just holding a spot,
right?
But it is an incredible feeling. There is just no way to put into words how cool it is.
You are gonna have a big crowd this summer, aren't you? Going to be awesome.
We hope so. Yeah, I think it ultimately has a chance to really go back to the way it was, and obviously with not just David and all of New England, his fans, the Dominican fans that are going to be there, but because we have such a big class, we have a lot of people from Minnesota, a lot of people from Kansas City, a lot of people from Chicago, a lot of our members. The Hall of Fame members who have been coming for years and years. I think they've missed not being able to go to a Rio one for a couple of years. And so I think I can't really put a guess on it. It's hard to know, but I do know that all the indicators that we're seeing in terms of early RSVPs and bus trips. And I talked to a few different Hall of Famers this week who have already told me that they're planning on being there. And we do expect both in fans and in Hall of Famers coming back. It's going to feel like the ones from 2019 and before. That's what we're hoping for.
It's just phenomenal. My first trip, 1999, Nolan Ryan, George Brett, Robin Yount, Orlando Cepeda. Oh, it was. I had never been there for the weekend, and talk about a kid in a candy store.
No, I bet.
Oh my God, Josh, I didn't know where to look first. I didn't know where to go. It was absolutely amazing. And then 3 years ago, so I have to, again, a real quick story. My wife didn't go to the ceremony, okay? Sunday morning, I get a chair, and I go drop it in front of the stage, I don't know, 50, 100, 200 feet back, right?
Yeah.
And I go back to the parking lot where she dropped me off, where she was still waiting for me. And I look and I find a tree way in the back, in the distance. And I'm thinking, and I go like this. And I'm going, all right, I got it. I'm stepping right here when I come back, and I hope I find a chair. Come back before the induction ceremony. I get off the shuttle bus. I go, oh no, thousands of people.
Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine.
Thousands of people. I go like this, and I don't even know how I got there, but I got there. I didn't step on his toes.
Oh, that's
awesome.
awesome.
Gosh, it was amazing. So it's such a great experience. And you know what the best thing is, as you know, you're talking to people who are complete strangers who love the game of baseball.
Yeah.
And that was it's just an incredible experience to be able to go there, a privilege, lucky to be able to sit there and watch and listen. And this crew coming up is, like I said, is going to be huge. And not only that, the ability to meet people on the street, Denny McClain, Bill Madlock, who else was there? I mean, just many. I mean, and then the parade. I mean, it's such a fun weekend for baseball, folks. It's just so awesome. I just loved it.
And the truth is it's, I mean, what people, I think so many people think of the Hall of Fame as that weekend, and obviously that's the biggest one. But I think for those who come all year round, I mean, it's such a cool place. On the weekends when it's not crazy and packed like that, you can have sometimes wings of the Hall of Fame to yourself if you're coming in the wintertime. If you're coming in summer, it's certainly getting busy. There were lots of tourists, but I know it's on so many baseball fans' bucket lists to make it out here. Because everybody, when I got this job, everybody, I've been meaning to go. And it's like, take it off the bucket list, put it on your to-do list, and get it done. Like, let's get you out here, because it lives up to the expectations. Like you were describing, it really lives up to it.
It does. So, Josh, in terms of now we know with the current, you have all the, there are exhibits there and different floors in the plaque room. Anything else coming up in the future? So who talks about this? What are the stages of the Hall of Fame as you look up there? You have a board of directors, I know, and they have you have like a 10-year plan or a 20-year plan?
Yeah, so we've started putting together. I mean, ultimately, one of the big things I wanted to do when I got here was not come in with a preconceived notion of how things should operate. I really want to see a full cycle through before I start really thinking 5-10 years down the road. But certainly we put together a strategic plan for 2022. And a lot of what I think we're going to keep trying to do, that we've got a pretty big announcement coming in the next week to 10 days or so. That'll be a pretty good look at some of the things we have coming. But certainly adding technology in places is going to be critical, and really finding ways to stay relevant for the next generation of fans. There's no doubt my son walks around the museum and my daughter walks around the museum, and they take it in differently than I do. And I took it in differently than my parents would. So I think really what we talk a lot about is what are the things that we can do that can make the museum both relevant to people of all ages, but we certainly have to, eventually we're going to run out of space. So starting to think about not just the storage space underground, but how do we continue to expand the things we have? How do we add new exhibits? All of those things are currently being discussed. And unfortunately, I can't get too deep into details, but I would say certainly in the next couple of weeks, some things are going to come out that'll be helpful. And then ultimately over the next 6 months or so, people will really start to understand some of the things that we're hoping to execute in the years to come.
Very cool. Yeah, because there's, again, and continuing obviously to preserve the history of the game and teaching kids about the current younger generation to keep that interest in baseball growing. A couple of things I want to get to before we finish up. One's about the Hall of Fame vote, and one's about the kids. In your eyes, Josh, how do we get the kids back? How do we continue to grow and get these kids who are now playing the video games and such, and playing soccer, to playing baseball again? And what did you have any stats? Do you know what has it declined? Tell me what you know at this stage of the game, if anything.
Well, I mean, it's a huge effort that isn't obviously just going to be Hall of Fame. Because a lot of the
Correct.
things that they're talking about doing at the league level that are going to make the game a little bit more fast paced, remove some of the dead time. You and I may look at it and think that that's some of the beauty of the game is watching the hitter pitcher matchup play out. But certainly, I watch my son, who's a huge baseball fan, and he isn't consuming it the same way that I am. So I think we have to see it through their eyes. I will tell you though, like I to give you an idea, I don't think it is as dead as people may
Okay.
purport it to be. I mean, my son just got the new MLB The Show last night, and I right before I came on with you right here, I picked him up at baseball practice. So first of all, baseball practice is the first time they got on a field since the cold. I mean, it was nice enough to get on a field today.
Good.
And as I'm driving him home, he said, I couldn't even focus at school today. I was so excited about the new MLB The Show that came out. And he goes, do you know what they have on there? I said, what do they have on there? He's like, the City Connect jerseys, because we came from Arizona. So he said, I'm about to get a Serpientes jersey, and the Miami ones are so sick, and those are cool. And I think it's recognizing that we might have looked at, I thought the Dodger Classic uniform was the best possible thing. Don't give me anything other than the simple, but they don't see it that way. And so rather than, I think sometimes we tend to criticize the next generation that comes along for, well, they want to flip their bats, or they want to pimp the homer, or they want to pump a fist, or they want to do a dance after whatever. Those are the sorts of things that I think we can't be afraid of letting young kids express themselves, because they watch football, they watch basketball, and that happens. They watch soccer, and a guy pulls a shirt up over his head, and like that stuff, I don't think ruins the essence of what baseball is. And so you've seen the campaign of let the kids play. That is one way to get them back. Other ways are all the changes that they're looking to find ways to add offense, less strikeouts, all those sorts of things. I think you add it all up, and the sport is definitely still being watched and played and participated in ways that it's an easy target. People love to, I think, take shots at baseball, but I don't think it's anywhere near as dead as some might want to say.
Yeah, and I think you're right. In terms of when you look at the attendance at the end of this year, I'm guessing, and maybe partially because of the pandemic, the attendance is going to skyrocket. I really think it's going to be really, really good. So yeah.
I hope you're right. And I think one of the things that people don't often talk about is, people will talk about the regionalization of the game. Oh, it's not the same. It's not the national game of the week that you or I might have watched, or This Week in Baseball on Saturday morning. And it's like, well, those were the days. And it's like, yeah, but back then you couldn't watch your team 7 nights. And so like nowadays, even in Arizona, where a team frankly hasn't been competitive for several years and isn't the main sport in town, it's still the number one most watched program in summertime across the entire state of Arizona, because every single Monday through Friday, the game is on and people have it on. So, I mean, yes, it's more regional, and that's a challenge. Maybe the playoffs, maybe less people are intrigued to watch a matchup that doesn't involve their teams, but I don't think that's all that different than maybe the NBA or MLS or I mean, it's the way the sport has changed, and I think we can't be afraid of change. I think
Exactly.
I saw a quote not that long ago that said, if you're afraid of change, if you hate change, you're going to hate irrelevance even more. And the reality is if we keep getting so stuck in our ways that we aren't willing to change, we'll become irrelment. So how do we keep changing?
Yeah, got to change. You got to go with the flow. Exactly. These kids are not who we were, and we want them to be. They're not, and it's not going to happen. So you said, get their perspectives. They're watching it differently than we are. Let's go to the Hall of Fame vote real quick. Again, I don't want to put you in a real bind here.
It's okay. I feel fairly certain you're not going to ask something that I haven't already got stuck answering, so you're good.
So somebody wanted to clarify. A lot of people were disappointed Dick Allen didn't get in, and he wanted a clarification. You're not in charge of the voters. The writers vote for the modern players, and there are committees that vote for the other era committees, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You have nothing to do with that. It's you are the president of the Hall of Fame. You make the Hall of Fame run. You are the manager of the Hall of Fame. So he wanted to clarify that and make sure that people knew the writers aren't voting for the players that played years ago, those veterans committees or those eras.
Yeah, I mean, I can clarify just a tiny bit. What we do, one of my jobs, along with several others at the Hall, is we do try to we are responsible for putting together that 16-person era committee voting block.
Okay.
And we present it to the board. And so one of the things we try to do is make sure that we have a good cross section of voters. We don't want all people that watched in the 70s or all people that watched in the 40s. We don't want all male. We don't want all Hispanic or all white or all black. We try to get a good cross section of very knowledgeable baseball fans, either current Hall of Famers who are living, owners or members of our board or executives, former GMs, and then really true baseball historians. And I was in the room when the vote happened for each of these, and I do get to watch it. I don't contribute, but I watch it. And all I can say is every one of these guys gets an incredible fair shake of people weighing in on what are the arguments here. And I think certainly, I mean, without speaking too specifically to Dick Allen, I mean, that you saw that 4 different people from that committee got in. So, I mean, there's clearly a lot of people from that era that many of the voters felt were worthy of getting in, and Dick only missed by 1 vote. Doesn't mean he won't have a shot again. That's what these era committees are there for, to make sure that we didn't miss anybody. And ultimately, in this case, we saw that 4 people in one committee and 2 in another. 6 different guys got in this year that will still be celebrated and then ultimately enshrined for eternity. So, I get to play a tiny role in it, but ultimately I do not get a vote. That is correct. Yeah. I don't get to weigh in with my opinion.
And listen, and there are opinions, right? That you're in the Hall of Fame and you have something to do with it, and you do what you said just a little bit. And when I had Bruce on, he said, "Listen, I just want to make sure you know that I have nothing." I said, "Bruce, I know you work Hall of Fame. It would be a conflict of interest. You don't want to sway." So I had to tell people today. I said, "Listen, I will do what I can." Josh, I appreciate your honesty in letting us know what some of that procedure is. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
Listen, we got about 4 minutes. I got to shine off in 2. So does Josh Rawitz, the president of the Baseball Hall of Fame, have a burn? The burn with Mitch? Do you have a burn, Josh? You seem like a happy guy. You got a great job, family. You don't have anything bugging you, do you?
I don't, man. I am so blessed. I don't have a complaint in the world. I don't have a complaint in the world. What I don't like is I don't like people who complain. You're unhappy about that. My burn in the world is find a way. You don't like something, let's find a way to make it better.
Make it better.
There's always a way to try to contribute and come up with a new solution to something. So,
and that's what I like to do too. In terms of brainstorming and coming up with think tanks, right? Just like you're doing with the committees to do something for the future of the Hall of Fame. I love that stuff. And like I said, if you have a complaint, well, what's your solution, right? If you got a complaint, what do you think? And reach out to them and say, what are your ideas? And I think that helps in terms of people management, calming down.
It's very much, I mean, my approach, honestly, at the Hall has been, look, you're not going to agree with every decision I make, but if you have a question, come, let's talk about it, and I'll tell you my thinking, and you tell me your thinking and your input, and that's ultimately, I think, all anybody in the world wants is to feel valued and heard, and we try to do that at the Hall. And when people have comments, whether it's on social media or they send it into the info at Baseball Hall, there's all sorts of ways that people can reach us, and we're always interested to hear what people have to say, because without the fans, there is no Hall of Fame. We have to shut our doors if nobody's coming in to check us out.
Right. Well, listen, I can't thank you enough for taking the time. I'm honored that you were able to take the time. It was awesome talking to you. Congratulations on what you're doing. You're hearing my passion. I love the game. If I could get up there every year, I would. But I just, appreciate what you all do. And thank you. Just thank you.
My pleasure, Mitch. I hope we get to see you up there soon. And for anybody that's watching or listening, if you make it up to Cooperstown, let them know that you were listening to this podcast, and we'll find a way to pop out and give you a little something special for coming up.
That would be great. That'd be great. Thanks so much, Josh. That's awesome. Have a great night. Stay healthy. Take care.
You too.
Thank you. All right. Thank you so much to Josh. That was awesome. I've got about 40 seconds to go. My next week's guest, off the beaten path of sports in terms of the traditional sports, Wicked Tuna fishing captains Bob Cook and Dave Marciano are going to be on next week. I have 2 other guests. I don't know if I can get to them right now. I'll be tweeting that out. Thank you to Julian. Thank you to Craig. Awesome show. The Captain Lou Extravaganza is next. Everybody take care. Have a great week. Be safe. Bye-bye.